Hi, and welcome to my podcast for parents. My name is Ann Maxwell, and I'm inviting you to a space where you get to be who you are, not only as a parent, but as the amazing being you actually are. Welcome back, everybody, to the For Parents podcast. I'm happy to be here again with my collaborator and in chief, Chelsey.
Thank you for having me, Ann.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about connecting with your kids. I am really excited about this. So much of this podcast has been inspired by Chelsey and stories of her and her son, and then also my therapy practice. So, Chelsey, do you want to start? Do you want to ask a question?
Totally. I would love to jump in here. It's been really cool because, if you've been listening to any of these, you know who Ann is. And Ann and I have been working together and been in each other's lives now for probably just about 4 years. I've got a 6-year-old, so that is a big part of his life. And we joke back and forth that everybody needs an Ann. Well, I have one. Nana Nana Boo Boo. And as school starts and kids change so much, connecting with them has always been this really weird, like, it's totally different now. What do I do? And he was great at daycare yesterday, and now he's in kindergarten, and it's like he's a different kid. I don't actually know can you help? Like, what
Yes.
do I do with this,
Yeah.
And there's always these golden nuggets that just come from Ann that I'm so excited to be talking about this because now everybody does get an Ann here.
So here's the deal about connecting with your kids. It requires you to be 100 completely, absolutely, totally, and utterly present with them, and to not have a point of view or a judgment or an expectation or projection or anything like that on who they are in the moment, what they're going through, like that kind of stuff. The other thing is that you have to be out of your head. You can't be thinking about the drive. You can't be thinking about the rest of your day. You can't be thinking about the fact that because he's struggling, and I'm not putting words in your mouth just as an example, but that if he's struggling and it's going to slow you down, it's going to mess up the whole rest of your day. Like, those thoughts have to go, because if they don't, then that's the energy that gets thrown at him. So let's talk about the first connection that you have with your child, right? A friend of mine is pregnant. She's going to have a baby in March. No, sooner than that. I can't remember. It must be sooner because she's pretty big. And I saw her the other day and I said, "How's the baby?" And her whole body, face, eyes lit up. And she said, "I don't know." Those are the words that came out of her mouth, right? What she didn't notice was that she and her baby were totally connected. She totally tapped into the energy of the baby in her belly. And she knew, I could tell that she and the baby were totally fine, right? Like that. So the connection is really nonverbal, guys. I'm sorry. I wish it were something that you could recite over and over to yourself so that you could just replicate it or do whatever it is that you want to do. But no, it's primarily nonverbal and it's energetic. And so, Chelsey, when Charlie was born, could you tell the difference between an "I'm tired" cry and "I'm hungry" cry?
Totally.
Get this person
Totally.
face
And,
crying.
and before he would even need something, you just have this, you're totally, you use the word attuned a lot, which I love,
Yeah.
to his body. Like, you just sort of know. And I have a question actually for you. Well, why does that change so dynamically? I knew it so well when he was a baby. That energetic conversation was like, duh, that's all we had. It's almost like when he started to be able to talk, that stopped being relevant. All of a sudden, it's sort of like, you can talk now, so you should? Or like, what happens there? What is that?
Babies change so rapidly. I think there's more rapid and complete change the closer you are to being born than for the whole rest of your life. And it's just packed in those first couple of years, first 2 or 3 years. There are developmental stages that babies go through, and we can do some podcasts on those. But I'm going to use an example of a friend of ours whose son was 2.5, and started throwing tantrums, and maybe 3, throwing tantrums, no, blah, blah. And she finally had a conversation with him one day, and she said, "Honey, I used to know what it was that was going on for you before you even needed to say anything. And I could tell when you were tired. I could tell when you were hungry. I could tell when you wanted to leave or you wanted to go. And I can't do that anymore. You're going to have to help me out. That marked that change right there. One of the developmental stages that occurs in the life of a person is that there are two stages of quote individuation, which is when you become yourself as opposed to an appendage of somebody else. And that's basically at 2 years old. And then again, as a teenager, where you really struggle. Your job is to become who you are, not who you thought you were, who everybody else thinks you should be, who your parents want you to be, who your coaches think you should be, like all that kind of stuff. And at 2, it's huge, right? So as a parent, what I've noticed is parents experience that as they can't ever do anything right. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. No, me do it my way. I can't do it, right? You do it,
Yeah.
right? Like that kind of stuff. And it's just part of the thing. And part of connecting with your child is to know that that's normal. It's not personal. It's not because you're a bad parent or because I hate you. My little brother at the age of 1.5 and 2, when he was frustrated, would go up to my mom and just kick her, you know. And she just knew that there was something not right in his world, right? He was upset about something.
Yeah.
So that it's that connection. That's the thing of connection. It's not personal. And yet it really is because you know each other better than anybody else probably does.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So how old is it is it energetic forever? Like,
Connection is energetic forever, right?
okay.
Have you ever walked into a room and thought, whoa, what's going
Yeah.
on in here? Right? Where the anger or the fear was palpable, like you could almost cut it with a knife.
Yeah.
Or when you're going to do a workshop and it's a workshop that sort of dives deep into the inner recesses of people, where in order for them to actually get something out of it, they're going to need to be vulnerable. And have you ever felt sort of that panic when you walk in and think that it's yours? It's like, oh my God, oh my God. No, you're just like picking up on what's going on for other people. That's part of being really present, and then being able to connect with people is taking that into how you approach them.
Thank you so much. Because when I said, when does it sort of change? It's almost like when he started talking, I stopped energetically sort of communicating, and you said, that's okay.
Yeah,
And then that's also him learning how to communicate in different ways too. So
exactly.
everybody's developing all the time. And
All
then
the time.
meeting somehow in some way, connecting.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
cool.
and little kids communicate more through their play than they do through anything else. Like, if you want to know what's going on in a little kid's world, play with them and let them lead, right? And you'll get an immediate sense of what that is. So a kid's ability to communicate changes really rapidly over time because the play changes really rapidly as well. And I know I'm getting really technical, and I don't mean to. And I don't think you necessarily have to understand all of these things. You just simply have to be present with them and just ask, like, what's really going on here? Right. So, talk about this story. You told me this story about Charlie yesterday at the parade.
Oh yeah, right. At the parade. So all of the
So, when
build
he
up.
just came unglued.
He just came unglued all of a sudden. All of a
Right.
sudden, it was all just enough. Not
Right.
really all of a sudden. There was quite a bit of build up and quite a bit of cues, actually, if
Right.
I'm honest, and actually was a little more present. Yeah, it was started as like, I don't want to do, like, he was just sort of like, this sucks.
Right.
This
Right.
sucks. I don't want to wait around anymore. I didn't think we'd have to wait around anymore. And I know, baby, but pretty soon, and just give it a few more minutes and a few more minutes and a few more minutes. And I didn't really know what was going on. I couldn't give him a
Right.
really clear, it's going to be 30 minutes and we should do this until then. So no one
Right.
really knew, and I wasn't really leading.
How
And
many
then,
people were you connecting with?
oh my God, there were literally thousands of people there.
Okay. And then who wasn't there that you were also connecting with energetically?
Right.
Right. And so as a parent, you connect with multiple people on multiple levels all day long. And so there's nothing like, if you miss a cue from your child, it's not bad parent. It's oops, all right, boom, here you
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
right? And it changes. I know we talk a lot about little kids because that's my specialty, and that's where your little guy is. Middle school and the tweens and then the teenagers are really different, and they're going through different stuff, different body stuff, different developmental changes, different social experiences, different school stuff. And what worked when they were little, in all likelihood, doesn't work anymore unless it's that capacity that you as a parent have to connect with them wherever they are, which means to be present, to not judge them, and to listen. And if they're not talkers, to listen energetically to whatever it is that's going on,
Well,
right?
and you talk about curiosity a lot too.
I guess maybe as a therapist, I'm innately curious about people, and I'm curious about what it is that got them to be where they are, either stuck or not stuck, either successful or viewing themselves as less than that. And the thing that they're going to say almost never is the thing. There's always like two or three or four layers, other
Right.
layers or other things that are going on that are actually driving whatever the outward behavior is. So with Charlie melting down like that, he was done. And so there'd been this whole buildup, and he was going to do all this at the parade, and he was going to give tattoos to everybody. And I'm sure he had a sense of what the day was going to be like, and it so wasn't like that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so what did you do?
We left.
And then what did you do?
We went bowling
Yeah,
somewhere dark. We went bowling somewhere dark.
out of the blazing sun, right? But
Yeah.
that's that, what you
Disengage.
to your child, right? Like that. It
Totally.
is so cool. It is so
Cool.
cool. Yeah.
Can I bug you one more time about this
Yeah.
curiosity thing?
Yeah.
Something just clicked so cool, like in such a different way for me. When I look at what Charlie responds to, when I am genuinely curious about his life or what's going on, or even in a day at school, he responds so much differently. He's so enthusiastic to talk to me about things and like engage with me about it.
Yeah.
Whereas that same question, which is just like, what'd you do at school today? I'm not actually asking. I'm not interested. But if when I'm interested, which is always something I notice in you, so you are so curious.
I am
You're so
curious.
curious with him, like the questions
Yeah.
you asked when he had his dance recital.
Oh,
What
he
kind of
was
songs did you
so
sing? What did the dances look like? And you really were coming from a place of genuine curiosity, which
yeah.
I think as a parent, sometimes you kind of forget to do. Like you
Yeah.
sort of, it, well, at least me,
As a
is
person, you forget to
you
do it.
forget to really genuine, like when I'm having a conversation with you and you're telling me about something I don't know, I'm really curious. And that's what creates conversation and connection. But if you're not genuinely curious and you're asking questions, of course that's frustrating for them. And of course they're going to shut you off.
Yeah, and so I was talking to a mom with a who has a 10-year-old son, and here's the conversation that they had. She works 24/7. She's on her laptop. She almost never shuts it down. And he's 10, and he wanted to talk to her about tie-dyeing. He was trying to explain some project that he was doing, and she was on her laptop going, "Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh." And then she asks a question that's not a question. Oh, so what is tie dye? And he blew up because she wasn't present. She wasn't paying attention. She wasn't interested in what he was talking about. She was asking him stupid questions. Right.
Which is not that different than how any of us would react. If you're being
Exactly.
asked to repeat yourself because somebody wasn't bothering to pay attention to you the first time, you are not
Right.
going to be a happy
Right.
camper about it.
Right. Exactly. 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 And so she's not a bad mom. She's an awesome mom. And she has a lot of work. And you don't raise kids in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You have relationships with a lot of other people, whether they're family or colleagues or both, and friends, and it's just huge. Your friends, their friends, everything. So, Chelsea, one of the things that I love about talking with you is some of the feedback that you give. So, do you remember when you were talking to me about putting Charlie to bed at night and him getting up and getting up and getting up?
Yeah. That like presence
And if
thing.
you give him, yeah, if you give him what he's
Give him what he
actually
actually needs. Like give him what he is actually needs.
right. And it's 5 minutes as opposed to a 2 hour tantrum, right?
Totally, totally. And actually, it was kind of circles back to what you were saying as being really present and actually listening. I'm going to quote you: if behavior is a form of communication and he
Right,
keeps on getting up out of bed and he keeps looking for me and he keeps making all these excuses as to why,
right.
what does he actually require? And it's like 5 minutes, it's one more story or it's a
Yep.
couple more pages. And it's really sitting in his world with him in his bed and being totally present for just a
Boom.
minute or two. And then he falls asleep within seconds.
It's that thing of feeling of somebody who really is completely attuned to you, totally gets you in the moment and doesn't talk about it. Oh, this is what you need. I'm giving you what you need. Now, do you feel better? It's not that at all. It's just
Yeah.
being it. It's beyond
Yeah.
words. There are no words there.
And what I've learned from you is it doesn't matter like who's right or wrong kind of. It's like
Yes.
I hear myself say this to Charlie sometimes when he's up and he's out, like, look, dude, we had a really good day and you had your snack and you go to bed at this time every day and the window's already open and the light is on. And it's sort of like, is that giving him what he needs or is that just digging your heels in? Like,
Right.
will that make your life easy right now, mama?
One of my favorite stories from my therapy practice years ago was a family that had 6 people in it, 2 parents and 4 kids, 5 of whom were extroverts, outdoor, athletic, love to do all kinds of things, go out, social, extroverted, like all that kind of stuff. And then the one nerky little dude who wanted to be in the basement, doing his Legos, doing his whatever the thing of the day was, video thing of the day was. And they chose by democratic vote, which meant that he never got anything that he wanted because he was always outvoted. And so over the course of therapy, they changed that to everybody gets a say, like one time. And so everybody gets to pick the restaurant one at a time. And then the other thing that happened was that the parents had been struggling a little bit, and they came into therapy, and the dad said to the mom, "Hey, did you notice how easy it was to go to dinner last night?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, actually it was." And he said, "Well, do you want to know what I did?" And she said, "Okay." And he said, "Well, I went downstairs 20 minutes before it was time to leave, and I said, 'Hey buddy, what are you doing?' And I just sort of got into his thing, and he was working away, and I said, 'We're going to be going to dinner pretty soon.'" And he's like, "No." And the dad said, "Yeah, I know, I know." And what the dad did, if you want to know technically what he did, it was allowing the brain of his son to adjust from doing something that he really loved to do to something that he probably didn't want to do, except his body was hungry. And after 20 minutes of the dad just hanging out with him and reassuring him that he didn't have to rush and there was plenty of time, and yeah, they were going to go to dinner and, blah, blah, blah. Kid got up, put on his shoes, ready to go, walked out the door. And the mom goes, "I don't have time for that." And the dad goes, "What? So you have time for 2, 3 hour tantrum and nobody gets dinner?" Right.
Yeah. Gosh, this stuff you're talking about, I'm looking at my morning right now, and all the places that I sort of did that, and all the places that I didn't, and
Right.
just how much fight can be avoided if you really lead and you know this stuff and you implement some of it.
So here's the tool. I'm going to give you guys a tool, which is the 20-minute, 5 minute warning.
Awesome.
Right. So 20 minutes before it's time for them to change their activity from usually something that they love doing to something that they'd rather not do, you say, "Okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to go." And then like, right. And then in another 3, 4, 5 minutes, you come in and go, "Okay, another 5 minutes. I just want to remind you that it's going to be time to go." And you, in this really calm, kind of neutral voice, just you're giving them information. And what you're really doing is talking to that little brain and giving the brain a chance to disconnect from whatever this activity is into this new one. I used to do that with kids who didn't want to leave the playroom. No, right? And if I did the 20-minute, 5 minute warning, they'd get up and walk out. They were good at the end, as opposed to like having to unwrap them from me, from my legs, or from peel them off the toys or whatever. So,
Cool.
yeah,
That tool has saved my life, Anne. Thank you for it.
yeah.
Really. Yeah.
But you think about it, that's what for you, like, isn't that something that you like, or as opposed to somebody going boom and just like bouncing you out?
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
Stop playing this video game. We're going to go, go someplace you don't want to go.
Right
Oh,
now.
right
And
now.
you better
Right.
learn how to be okay with it.
Right, exactly. And don't be disrespectful. You respect me, right? Chop chop, let's go.
Oh, poor little guys sometimes.
I know. I know. So connecting with your kids, it changes over time. We're going to talk a lot more about child development and about different stages and stuff like that. But the reality is the connection is energetic. And you guys know your kids better than anybody on the planet, full stop. You always have, you do, and you always will. And so just take that in. Just let that land. And then ask a question like, what's really going on? Or what do I need to do? Or, right? So those are two tools 20-minute, 5-minute warning, and ask a question.
Brilliant. Thanks, Anne. This was awesome. Thanks for having me again.
I love this. This is awesome. All right, guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like, you can connect with me below in the comments section. And if you'd like more information about me, please go to my website at www.maxwellLCSW.com.